Level feelings. What are they? Where do they come from? Can they be trusted? Level feelings are modifiers to levels that will randomly apply to most levels that usually just make them harder. It can add new structures, change generation, and other times just make things look a little different. They vary in rarity. Some you'll see likely once a run. Some you might not see at all in your time of playing the game. Of note is that no feelings will occur in 1-1, Duat, 5-1, or the Cosmic Ocean, not even if they would otherwise be forced to occur. With that all said and done, let's get into what they actually are. First, and by far most common, the dark levels. You get the feeling of you can't see a thing, and immediately notice the level is in fact very dark. People, as well as fire-based things, will give off varying amounts of light, and thankfully you'll spawn with a torch to increase your visible radius. Additionally, spectacles and or the hedget from the black market and jungle will respectively, minorly or massively affect your vision in dark levels, as well as back layers. The only main differences in gameplay outside of things being dark is that any arrow traps will shoot fire arrows, dealing 3 points of damage as opposed to their regular 2, as well as being able to cook chokies. Tiki men in jungle will also carry lit torches rather than a boomerang or shield, and will throw it at you if they notice you. And in terms of how they generate, the next level will never be dark if you beat the previous level in 30 seconds or less, excluding seeded runs. You'll also never get more than 2 dark levels per world, and dark levels will not occur in major areas such as Olmec, Abzu, or Hundun's Hideaway, unless you sufficiently anger Kali by getting the Punish Ball bound to you 3 times, which will then make all levels that can be dark, dark. It'll also spawn the Ghost as a fun addition. Next is large levels, which are also fairly common. You'll know, if not by exploring them, by the text saying your voice echoes in here. They're fairly simple, the main effect changing the map from a 4x4 room layout, 4 layers of 4 individual sections, to a 6x6 room layout, adding an additional 20 rooms to explore for a total of 36. Of note is that if it occurred in World 2 or World 4, a leprechaun is guaranteed to spawn, making up for the ghost being more likely to otherwise catch you with the clover. It is also following the same rules of not appearing if you beat the last level in 30 seconds or less, as well as that rule not applying on seeded runs. It also won't occur on pretty much any special level, such as 1-4 or Olmec. You get the point. Here we have one of the more interesting ones. You hear an incessant buzzing means that you're in for a treat, literally. It means that a beehive will have generated on that level, with a back layer door within leading to a hive of varying size, along with a queen bee, which will drop a royal jelly on death. She does 2 contact damage, so be a bit wary, but she'll die to 1 bomb or various other methods, so as long as you don't get hit more than 3 times, it will be worth it. This feeling will only spawn in jungle or the temple, having a 1 in 10 chance to spawn in the first 2 levels and a 1 in 8 chance to spawn in the latter 2. It will never spawn on the same level as the black market, however, so if you see one in the jungle, don't bother searching for the other. This one is rather uncommon, but not for any good reason. The dead are restless signifies a few things of note. Firstly, and most obvious, there will be a large grey brick structure spawning somewhere within the level along the main path, surrounded by numerous graves, Zhengxi assassins, and inside of it you'll find various treasure, such as the level's cursed pot, as well as vampires. If cursed, you can also see that there are some geists floating around the various graves, which you can take photos of to earn some sweet moolah. Additionally, fog will cover the level around the structure itself throughout. This feeling will only ever appear in World 2 and World 4, and in Tidepool specifically, it'll only ever spawn on 4-1 or 4-4, assuming you didn't go Abzu. It also cannot spawn on the same level as Vlad Castle, but for some reason it can spawn on the same level as the Black Market, which is blatant bee racism by the shopkeepers, and I cannot stand for this. Okay, now that I'm sitting down, we can continue. Similarly irrelevant, but slightly more useful, you hear the sounds of metal clanking means a conveyor belt system will have spawned along the main path of the level, moving piles of scrap created by generators, inevitably leading to a lava pool. It also has a back layer that contains even more generators making scrap with even more lava. To be fair, if you want to, you could grind the scrap in hope of finding loot that you could get from a crate. However, it's pretty rare that you'll even get those, and I wouldn't recommend using your time to do so. This will only ever spawn in Volcana, and not on the same level as Vlad's castle. And lastly, for the normal feelings, there is an air of oppression here, signifies that somewhere along the main path there will be a big room with 6 locked doors in it. each leading to a cell which holds either nothing, a bone block, or a hired hand. You're most likely to get any hired hands inside via either the skeleton key or just blowing them open from the back layer. This feeling will only spawn in Tide Pool and only 4-1 or 4-4, once again assuming you didn't go Abzu. Now we have some more indirect feelings, or pseudo-feelings as they're referred to. They tend to only appear when you meet a specific criteria rather than arbitrarily happening on a level. You Hear the Beating of Drums appears when you enter 1-4. Welcome to the Black Market appears when you enter the Black Market in Jungle. Your Blood Begins to Run Cold appears when you enter Vlad's Castle in Volcana. You Feel a Burst of Excitement Inside You appears when you enter the City of Gold. It Smells Like Wet Fur in Here appears when you enter the back layer that contains the Yeti King and Queen. You Hear the Sounds of Revelry appears when you enter 6-3. You Feel Strangely at Peace appears when you enter the Eggplant World. And lastly, you feel forgiven when you are forgiven by the Shopkeeps by avoiding angering them for however long it matters. Lastly, for real this time, I'll also cover the generation that can occur that the game won't tell you about, but is variable per level. Firstly, in Dwellings, 1-2 and 1-3 will either be the start of the Yang's quest, or contain the golden key as well as the chest containing the Agent Eye. If you see one of these structures or the Tokis, then you won't see the other on that level, and 1-1 never contains anything unique to it. In Jungle, 2-1 won't contain anything unique to it, however, 2-2, 2-3, and 2-4 each will contain one of the Parsley Sisters, or whatever their names are. Additionally, one of them will contain the Black Market, and one of them will also contain the Moon Challenge, once again not on the same level. Also, in World 2, as well as Tide Pool, you can find a structure that leads to the start of the Sparrow quest line if you activated that by stealing an item. As for Volcana, 2-1 will always contain Van Helsing locked behind a door which you can access to from getting a silver key in a similar looking back layer. Note that the layout will always have a door up against a flat wall. If it has any blocks here removed, then it's just a treasure room, which, speaking of, is a structure that may generate on any given Volcana level, seemingly mostly irrelevant to any other structures. It has the key in an entrance that looks like this, and leads to an area very similar to Van Helsing's, but as I stated, with a non-flat wall. Once again, in any level other than 2-1, you can find the Moon Challenge or the Drill and Vlad's Castle on different levels from each other. In Tide Pool, 4-2 will contain Excalibur, the Great Humphead, the Stars Challenge, as well as a back layer that will contain a guaranteed Geist spawn, although you can find them in other manners. In 4-3, you can find a lava lake structure, which behind it has the exit to Abzu. Abzu, obviously, containing Kingu, who holds the Tablet of Destiny. In Temple, 4-1 will always have Anubis spawn on a golden throne, and if you let Van Helsing kill Vlad, a back layer leading to Van Helsing will give you an alien compass. 4-2 will contain an exit to the City of Gold that can only be opened with the Scepter, as well as the Stars Challenge. The City of Gold contains one of the 2 guaranteed Kali altars in the entire game, as well as many other quirks. And Duat contains a unique altar that rewards the player various prizes that are based on how much favor you have with Kali that are shown on screen now. And, of course, if you saw my last video, you can very rarely have a swarm of locusts spawn, which is also the only feeling that can occur in the Cosmic Ocean. In Neo Babylon, 6-1 will contain an area under some mushrooms to continue the Sparrow quest line. 6-2 contains the Hall of Ushabtis, and 6-3 contains the Palace of Pleasure, as well as the end of the Sparrow quest line. And 6-4 obviously holds Tiamat, and can, seemingly very rarely, have the area above Tun generate like this, rather than this. Lastly, 7-1 or 7-3, but not 7-2, will contain the Sun Challenge. It cannot be 7-2 in case the player goes to the Eggplant World, as that area never varies in terms of what it will generate, and it'll never have the Tun Shop. And 7-4 obviously holds Hundun, but it also holds the entrance to the Cosmic Ocean by shooting Hundun's eye with the arrow of light, fired out of Hu Yi's bow. And that is everything to know about level feelings. Good or bad, they exist, and now you have been blessed with the massive amounts of unnecessary knowledge, a lot of which you probably already knew. Most of them honestly aren't all that relevant, but a few are noteworthy, and some are just strange. But I won't drag it out any further. Thank you for watching. Do the stuff that people tell you to do at the end of videos, and I hope to see you next time.